text it should sound like and getting kids to get us at what it should sound like, but they had no clue how to answer it.
Yeah. And you and Maddie had a back and forth where you were like, wait, what should we do here? And there was an exchange that lasted like 3 or 4 minutes trying to get them to the right answer. Let's talk about that moment and like really zoom in on what we could have done to pull out like the misconception that I think that you were going for. What was the misconception that you saw on students' page that you wanted to produce?
I think it was mainly that they kept addressing the whole but not the contribution part.
I think that's like spot on.
Maddie and I talked about, I think it's mainly because they don't have the language to address the contribution part. So I put up the word bank in the front, so hopefully that helps.
That's a beautiful differentiation tactic, I think, to like get them there. I also saw you guys move the part to whole poster to the front of the classroom rather than behind the column, which I think was good. Let's zoom in on how we can like accelerate the debrief to really pull out what we know is the misconception. Because that same misconception around like them not addressing the whole has appeared now on 2 weekly quizzes in a row, and we're not getting traction yet. So how could we possibly like accelerate to that misconception in class?
I think it's first we have to get them at label the part, label the whole.
Yep.
What is the whole? The
Yeah.
whole is the central idea. Okay, great. What is the central idea of this text? The central idea is blah, 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 blah.
Great. So I hear you like saying we're gonna like re-question around process. That is great in being like building transferable knowledge on like what needs to be done. However, we still need to go after that misconception of them only addressing the part rather than the whole. And I think right now, the best way that we can do that is to like deliberately and clearly outline for kids why it would be a mistake to only include just the part. So in the class the other day, I think what you could have done is started with a show call.
Okay.
The show call would not have been an exemplar. The show call actually would have been the key misconception for the day.
Okay.
So I would have thrown the do now literally right up in front of kids, had them look up at the screen and go, this is what Mr. Kaiser wrote. Like, Fatah, read it. And then ask clearly, why is this incorrect? And what answer would we have wanted people to produce for that?
The same like Jamie Lynn produced is that this answer is only addressing part of the question.
Exactly. How might highlighting that misconception clearly through a show call help kids to realize a mistake that they shouldn't ever make?
I think putting it up there so that they can see what they did wrong, but I think we also have to have like a raise your hand if you only address the part. Raise your hand if you mention paragraph, whatever, because a lot of them will not self-identify as like, oh, I made that mistake too.
Yeah.
Like Jamie Lynn, I feel, was the only person in that room that could metacognitively figure out like what she did wrong.
Totally. So I think that this is done in concert with your questioning around like process, around what's the part, what's the whole, and take like quick gauges of whether they've recognized and understand their job. So I think it would start with like, all eyes look down. Jamie Lynn, read the question out loud. What type of a question is this? This is a POW question. What is it, everyone? It's a POW question. When I address this, when I find a prompt like this, I attack it every single day, the same exact way. And you did that in that lesson. You had them re-annotate the part and the whole. You had them circle the part and circle the whole, which I thought was great. I think we do need to accelerate like to the misconception that they're really doing and then giving them a chance to revise on the other side.
Okay.
Let's think through what that would look like for today's do now, because we're strategically now spiraling these like high impact, really important stems that we're going to see again and again. Yeah, let's pull it out. My prepped version. Yeah. Okay. It's a strange part whole question. Let's take a second to look at it. What's the role of paragraph 1?
So I think it's to introduce the topic, which is the lotus flower. Like, introduce the topic and give background knowledge.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the correct answer would be the role of paragraph 1 is to introduce the topic, the 2 species of the lotus flower. However, that's not, I think that would be the misconception, because we know we still need to, even though it's a hidden whole part, it doesn't say, we still need to establish how that contributes to the central idea of the whole article. So I think then the second part of that assertion is the central idea of this article is the lotus flowers exotic qualities have led it to become a symbol in many cultures, something like that. So then I'm like very amongst. I like just had milk. So let's think through like what the misconception we want to like show for kids is, show call for kids.
Yep, I think major misconception is they're only going to address the first part, and then also show call a child that is not going to have the language.
Great. So talk me through the questioning from the beginning to the end on the way of debriefing this with a misconception and a revision.
Yep. What type of question is this?
It's a part whole POW question.
What's the part?
Paragraph 1.
Be careful, there's a hidden hole. What's the hole?
Central idea of the whole text.
Strong. Right now, everyone track the board. You're thinking, what did this person not address?
Great. I love you gave me a thinking task. The role of this paragraph is to introduce the... Okay. What do you want me to do?
Yep. Eyes. Are they missing the part or the whole? Do so. 1 for a part, 2 for a whole, 3, 2, 1, show. Strong. Most of us can identify that we're missing the whole, hands down. What's the whole is the central idea. The whole is the...
Central idea.
What is the central idea? Point to your brain when you have one. Everyone tracking Marlon. What is the central idea?
The central idea of the article is that the lotus flower is exotic, has exotic qualities, and has led it to become a symbol.
Everyone, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to go back and revise your answer, including the part and the whole.
Great. Perfect. Okay. Then at the board, I would revise as well, or have this ready to show call.
Okay.
So that you get 100% there. Beautiful. Beautiful. So let's just think for a second about like the repeated impact. Like our goal is like every single day on the Do Now, we're going to spiral stems assertion stems like this from now until the state test, let's just think about the like repeated impact of debriefing those by highlighting the most common misconception that we're seeing. Like what would happen?
The children get it right.
It'd be like damn tight. Like
It'd be
they
one
would
standard they will not miss.
No, it would be tight because we know right now like 60% of our kids are doing this, and if we can go, oh no, like Mr. Kaiser made that mistake, but like we're not, that's like fun, it's investing, and kids are gonna just be like never making that mistake again.
Yeah.
And so these do now debrief questions are just such an opportunity for us to go after like those misconceptions. Okay? Okie dokie. So that's going to be like an every single day tactic that we have on that type of question. Let's just flip through this lesson really quickly. Are there other places where we more or less can use the exact same tactic?
I don't know if I'm correct when I tell them, like, for instance, the exit ticket, I address it as a part to whole. Because it forces you to think about, like, I don't know if that's actually telling them to do the right thing.
I mean, this is certainly a part to whole, but it's not giving you, like, the specific part by name, like in paragraphs 2 to 3. It's just telling a part of the plot.
Right.
So...
But should I not address it that way so they don't get confused, or?
I think we should.
Okay.
It's important to nuance their understanding of, like, what's the part, what's the whole. Yeah. I actually think, Renika, there's one opportunity to debrief through a misconception with question number 2 in the Siconians. It's a multiple choice, but you can do the same kind of misconception distractor analysis, pulling out which line best foreshadows the dangers Ulysses' men face. I think that answer choice C, kids will potentially pull out as an example of foreshadowing. And so rather than you show call by putting it up on the board, rereading and saying, why is answer choice C incorrect? I think we can assume that 30% of kids are going to pick C, like 40% of kids. Reason being, it's an example of like the impact that Poseidon's relationship with Ulysses has had on the men. But it's not at all really driving the idea of foreshadowing, because it's just like the effect of that relationship.
Yeah.
So going after like heavy distractor analysis through multiple choice here. Okie dokie?
Yeah.
Okay, synthesize for me